Is ICE out of line? How could they be so heartless? Should we just get rid of them? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another one of my videos here. Um, I know I mentioned in my intro, for those who remember the intro video, that a lot of my videos would be dealing with world events and not necessarily be foreseen as a Bible study type thing, even though I'm a biblical person. And this is one of those videos that's going to more so get in the direction of where I want to go with this page. Last video, I did make a testimony just to share something great God had did in my life, because I also wanted to just share the goodness of God, right? But having shared that now, this is more so the starting point of the launch into more so the direction I'm headed towards. So, in reference to my intro here, with all the things going on with ICE, I don't really understand where so many people are harboring such hatred towards ICE. And I want to be very cautious with how I say this, because while I don't understand it, I also do understand it. But I'm going to get to that aspect in a little bit. But first and foremost, I just want to address that I don't understand where people are coming with all this hatred. And I know you have political things going on. I know you have two sides to every coin. You have multiple sides to a piece of die, however you want to call it, proper grammar. But there's multiple sides to stories. I understand this. I know there's multiple viewpoints. But despite all that being said, I still do not understand how, one, people can have the hatred, any hatred towards ICE at all, let alone to the degree that they have it. Okay. And so for that, I just want to try to make this video as quick as I can. I don't want to make videos too long. That's not my goal here. I just want to bring out facts and just state some truths. Okay. So for one, to start things off, I see how people react to ICE, and it's almost as if, and before I even get into this, let me say this right now, in case no one has seen my previous videos. I'm not making this video with the basis of trying to come from any political party affiliation. That is not my goal. If you couldn't tell by now in this video, I have my opinions, but I'm also a biblical person. If you want to tie me to anything, I come from a Christian standpoint. I come from the Word of God. But this is not to attack any person. It's not to come and preach any kind of propaganda. However, it's to bring truth, while also, if it's attacking anything, it's attacking deception and lies, because I don't like lies. I don't stand for it. So we're going to address that. But that being said, it's almost like people have this, I don't know how you would call it, this image in their mind, this impression, I'll call it, that somehow ICE is an agency that Trump owns. And I don't know where this is coming from, because if you were just to do a quick Google search, if you would just you do a quick moment to just stop and take some time to think in history, take some time to review any critical news you've seen coming out, you would see that there was at no point in time, as much as the media talks about Trump, as much as the news portrays world events going on in either in this nation or around the world, never have you ever seen Trump announce or anyone else claim he was creating some kind of organization called ICE. That's because it didn't happen. Okay. Despite what people think, ICE was created back in 2003. Okay. And if you even want to go to that extent, different forms of it, or a different form of it, existed prior to that. Okay. And so I know what people are saying. Oh, well, it's not that he created ICE, but it's the way he's enforcing it. Well, first and foremost, know this. One, he's the president. And just as other presidents have done, he has, within his job description of being the president, the right to enforce or to make movements as he sees fit, as long as it's according to the Constitution, as long as it's according to what a president should do, or rather has the right to do. In other words, just because you don't agree with how he's doing it doesn't mean it's outside of his job description. But I don't want to spur off into too many tangents. Getting back to the primary first point I made, ICE is not owned by Donald Trump. Okay. I don't care what people say. He does not own Trump. Okay. Again, it was established in 2003. And if you really want to get into the information about it, not only is ICE not new, but the concept that you may not agree with of dealing with illegal immigrants is not new, right? So, with that being said, we're going to kind of cross into the second point here, which is that establishing what ICE does. But, and I'm not saying all this as if you guys don't know these things. I'm just reinforcing points so we can look at more of a fuller picture, right? We should always be able to put a mirror in front of ourselves and critique ourselves, right? If we don't do that, let reality and our consciousness speak for itself, right? But again, to be quick here, so ICE was created, or rather established in 2003. But before that, prior to that, you do a quick Google research. Before that, we had the INS, which was Immigration Naturalization Service, that dealt with customs and so forth, obviously. And it was in 2003 that while that existed, it merged with what we already had, which was the Department of Homeland Security. And in 2003, then ICE was formed, which means, yes, Donald Trump uses ICE, but it also means Barack Obama used ICE, right? So, again, I don't know why people think Trump owned it when it was created way before he ran in office and is even used by presidents before he was in office. So, that's first and foremost. It's not Trump's, okay? He does not own it. He uses it, okay? That being said, what does ICE do? Well, again, if you can tell from the names of where it came from, Immigration Naturalization Service, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the influence of Department of Homeland Security, obviously the first and foremost is that they deal with illegal immigration, okay? That being said, our nation has laws, okay? While you can be nice to immigrants and so forth, people oftentimes merge these two ideas and concepts together and think that ICE is after all immigrants, which is a bold-faced lie, if I may say this as a Christian from the pit of hell. Okay? They are not coming after all immigrants, because if they were coming after all immigrants, for one, you wouldn't see it only after Hispanics, because we have more than Hispanic immigrants. And you would not see the testimonials of all these immigrants, including including Hispanic immigrants, including Arabic immigrants, including Asian immigrants. You would not see these people who are raising their voices speaking about how they don't see anything wrong with the ICE organization and how they despise that despite all the hard work they had to put into getting into this country, that there are those who are coming in outside of that method, taking people's places, essentially cutting to line in this process and hindering, if not stealing, possible immigrant status or opportunities from people who would have rightly applied. So on top of that, if you want to think of it in that note, that's theft, right? So ICE is not coming after these people. And I know a lot of people may not agree with this, but sorry, I had to look at my phone there for a second, open something up. But you have to have a hold on your borders, and you have to see to it that while we can welcome people in, again, you have to do things legally, okay? And when they're done legally, then hey, come on in, as long as you pledge allegiance to our nation, because on top of just coming in legally, we also wanted to see to it that you're coming into our nation legally to be a part of our nation, not to bring your nation with you and turn your nation against us by converting us into your nation and destroying what you so liked so much to come here and join. We can welcome people, but it has to be done legally, okay? Now, that being said, I know that people also debate and argue that a lot of what ICE does is out of context. And this is where I made mention, I understand why people can be against ICE, but also don't at the same time. And this is where I'm going to get into this. And this really, if I may speak honestly, irks my nerves to their core, because I do not like lying. Okay. My grandmother and my mother have raised me very well, father as well, but um, this lesson, I remember specific moments in my life of the teaching of it and the correction, the discipline of not to lie, or correction from lying. They didn't just install it in me as if to say it's wrong not to do it. It became a value that I despise because I can see and understand the repercussions from lying. That being said, I understand why people dislike ICE because of how things seem to be going. But again, this is also why it's very bad to lie. This is why I hate lying to its core. And it is because majority of the reactions and emotions people have towards ICE all stem from lies. And I know what people are going to say. They're going to try to call me a member of Tin Hat Society. You may call me some kind of brainwashed MAGA person, even though, again, I don't identify as MAGA. My party is not soul tied to, my political affiliation is not soul tied, Republicans or conservative. It's tied to the Bible because I'm sold out to the Bible. Okay. Wherever that leans closer to is where I will lean, but I don't tie my soul to it. Okay. But still, that being said, I'm getting off base here. I know people may think it sounds like I'm trying to pass off some kind of conspiracy statements as if I wear a tinfoil hat saying, oh, well, just because you say this doesn't mean it's that, or, yeah, you could say people lie, but, you're lying yourself just trying to cover things up. Okay, if you're going to try and cover or disprove if something is lying or truth, what you have to do is look at the facts. And if you're not willing to look at the facts, then why are you even having conversations with people? Because now, if you don't know what's going on, you're speaking out of ignorance. And if you were to talk to someone and they told you a story out of ignorance, and you went and portrayed that, and then you realized what they were saying was false, and then that statement that you said were false, you realize you were going around telling people a lie based off of what someone else said, and they knew it was a lie, but they told it to you anyways, you would feel not only embarrassed, but you would feel upset at that person for telling you something that wasn't true. Don't believe me? Look at all the drama that people go through in their adult life, that they went through in high school and so forth, passing around rumors that aren't true, whether it happened to you or whether it happened to someone you know. No one likes that happening, right? And yet somehow we carried it into our adult lives, into politics, because people are motivated by agendas that push their financial and namesake success. People want to be the victor, they want to be on top, right? And this is a very known well concept that has been pushed to the point of being cliche that everyone knows, which is, you watch movies, you watch cartoons, you watch TV, you read books. Everyone knows the bad businessman persona of the man who has it all, but the only reason he has it all is because he cut corners, he lied, or he stepped on people to get to where he is. And we all know the good hero, how would you call it? We'll just say mindset for now, that no one should step on anyone else to get where you are. You should do it the right way. Yet, I don't even know if I have to describe a lot of the motivations, or rather, a lot of the motives that have happened lately in the Democratic Party. And I don't say that in a sense, again, to attack them. But again, if we're going to have to get to truth, we have to expose what are lies, right? And so the Republic Party has done things bad. The Democrat things have done things bad. Again, not trying to pick sides here. But what I am going to say is, if anyone, I'll put it this way, because you even have level-headed, respectful, polite people on both sides, Democrat, Republicans. You have radical people on both sides, Republicans and Democrats. But as far as talking about the ones of whatever affiliation they tie to, where the term of phrase people know is being radicalized. And yes, you have this on both sides. For the people who are radicalized, majority of what they do comes out of ignorance. But what I hate, and again, it's not to attack anyone, it's just to express the frustration of how people can be willingly passing false narratives or moving out of ignorance. Whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican, whether you're independent, if you're going to say something, do your research and know what you're talking about. It goes back to the old grade school game, like I was talking about in my previous video, the old game of telephone. If you keep passing on what you heard someone say and passing on what someone says, you can see the longer the line goes down, that messages get twisted and contorted until it's not even the same message. And it happens almost out of, we'll say, unintentional bases, right? Out of accidental means. But then you have political affiliations that only seek their own self-fame. They don't seek the welfare of the nation. They just seek the welfare of their party. They seek the welfare of their name. They seek the welfare of their pocket, to where, because they can't think of the other people, what they're doing to them, they paint these false narratives, right? So to get into what these false narratives are, I know a lot of what happened lately is motivated and stirred from the unfortunate circumstances of Renee Good and Alex, I think his name was Preddy. And it's very unfortunate that these people have lost their lives. I would rather that nobody loses their lives. However, I will say this. People read these situations with the utmost compassion and love and understanding for these people who were unfortunately ended or exterminated by ICE. Okay. You look at the Renee Good situation, unfortunate. You look at Alex Preddy situation, unfortunate. But what I can't understand is why we can imagine character, personas, and traits for these people, and we can show compassion, we can show love, we can cry tears for these people. Yet when it comes to the ICE officers who are also involved in the situation, it's like all of a sudden compassion doesn't register. And you would think, oh, well, why should they do that? What they did was completely immoral and so forth. Okay, but let's say this, whether you agree with it or not, again, it's unfortunate, but with the Renee Good situation, we have clear-cut videos showing what happened. And I know people may not like this, and I don't have the resources right now to show it to you. I didn't want to make this video too long. But you can see with Renee Good, where from one video, you've seen it was a bad angle to where you can't really see the police officer or the ICE officer that was in front of the vehicle too well, but you could see his foot hanging off the corner. I guess for you, it'd be like this. And the moment he starts moving, you can see his leg go like that. It doesn't step, it slides. Why would there be movement without stepping? Makes you question. Then you see another video from the back of someone on a porch with a video where it shows a better clear-cut video. Contact was made. People still try to argue. People still try to break that video down and say, oh, contact didn't happen. Then body footage cam comes out of the officer who was hit, and you can see clearly cut from the video on his chest. Contact. People still want to try and deny. And then a video that's not too far open, and maybe I'll make a video showing these if you want, or a post, I don't know. There's a fourth video where there's a random bystander who was anti-ICE, doesn't support ICE, but was not involved with the situation, eyewitness to see the whole thing. Yet, despite her opposing ICE, she on video in an interview to the reporters around interrogating things, she confessed on camera that as a bystander, she saw the bumper make contact with the ICE officer. And yet people still, because it may throw risk of deteriorating what mindset or thought they have, how they perceive ICE's character to be, they disown that, or whatever you would say. They disregard it. They throw it aside. They don't believe it. They call it false, or they just don't even talk about it. Don't show it. They bypass it. And it's like anytime there's some kind of news or video or whatever that shows the truth, instead of interrogating to see if it's truthful or not, they'll just run away, or they'll just say, oh, well, I don't want to see that. But it's like you can't come to a better formed decision or better formed viewpoint if you're only looking at one side. Everyone knows there's two sides to a coin. If you refuse to look at the other side, then you're choosing to be blind. It's as simple as that, right? So that, and then with Alex Preddy, again, unfortunate that it happened. And honestly, in both situations, it could be said that the shooting could have not happened. In the Alex Preddy situation, a lot of shots were fired. Now, I'm going to say I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but I've just seen someone talking about it, and I didn't have time to try and look up, let alone trying to attach too many other people's content or whatever on here. But I do have some I will show, but I didn't want to do too much. And again, for the sake of time, don't want too long of a video. But with the Alex Preddy situation, a commentator made a point that the vehicle, or not the vehicle, the weapon that was owned by Mr. Alex, the commenter didn't understand why he would even carry that gun into a protest anyways, and not for the basis that it's running risks of danger carrying weapons into a protest, which that alone stands by itself. But more so, the point he was coming from, as more knowledgeable with guns he is, I'm not very knowledgeable with guns, but the comment he was making is that that gun is known to be a hair trigger happy gun, meaning it can sometimes discharge itself without you pulling the trigger. And so, in other words, saying if it gets bumped the wrong way, it could shot. So then he brought up the viewpoint. He said, well, what if in him being tackled down, his gun smacks and comes into contact with the ground? And if an officer hears that going off, then that would already tell the officer that not only is this someone who could pull out a gun, this is someone who's already firing shots trying to shoot, which could lead to the result that we got. Whether or not that's the case with that gun, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you it is. But what I'm saying is, when you take opportunities to take a step back, cool down from emotions, and look at things logically, you can start to understand from the other person's perspective. Why are we never ever willing to try and understand things from the other person's perspective? We want grace and compassion for everything else, right? And just for a quick example, I know countless people who may have been speeding, driving through traffic. They may have made an accident of driving through a red light, or failing to yield at this stop sign or yield sign, failing to come to a complete stop in the stop sign. They may be in a rush, whatever. They get pulled over to the cops, and let's say they have a bad day going on. Let's say their father just died the previous week. Let's say their mother's in the hospital on death's door, and they just got a call from the doctor. They have an hour left, and they go pugging it. And this was a video of a man speeding down the highway on his motorcycle, trying to get to his mother before she passed, and he couldn't make it. He got the call as he was racing down the highway that she passed away, and he basically stops the motorcycle, falls to the ground, and just starts crying. You have background situations that could cause people, whether it's a bad day, whether it's a bad circumstance, for why people do things. And when you find yourself in a situation, you almost demand that people have compassion as an officer stopping you, to see that, oh, well, this is why they have a reason, this is why they were doing that. Maybe I could get off with a warning. Anytime we're in some kind of situation where, even though technically what we were doing was wrong, we still expect grace and compassion. Yet we never have the capability of extending that to someone else. And I don't understand that, right? And so, trying to keep my notes here so I don't get too off basis here. Again, trying not to have too long of a video. But that's just painting a picture that people want compassion, but it's like, they're never too often do you see people, especially situations like this, do they put compassion onto someone else. And I know the reason why. don't want to get too long on this point, but it's because they identify them as their enemy, which I think is very toxic, a toxic mentality. But not trying to get too much on that, just painting a picture. Yes, the things that happened with Renee Good and with Alex Peretti were unfortunate. But if you look at it only from a perspective that ICE could have done something better and they didn't, so they're evil, is speaking out of ignorance. Because, and I'm not saying it's because like with the potential of the gun being a bad type of gun or this or that. I'm saying if you come with a preformed bias that someone is evil, you will overlook every other type of situation, right? And for that, I have some examples I do want to show you, right? So let's take a look at this one here, okay? Now, again, because I'm making a video, I didn't want to share someone else's video, but you can see here, this is a video I took screenshots from on Instagram. You can see the title there, so shout out to this person, King the Lion. This is his video he posted. I just took multiple screenshots. So the people he has in his reel, unfortunately, I do not have any way of tagging them or identifying them. And I didn't bother contacting him to try and get it because it wasn't important. Their videos are already public, so it's not like it's any kind of violation in that sense. They made their videos. They put it out to the public, so it is what it is. But I just wanted to highlight some things. Look at this screenshot here real quick. And notice this woman commenting, again, about the irrational nature of ICE. It says, children being handcuffed is not okay. I know it's kind of cut off there at the top, but children being handcuffed is not okay. And then here in the caption, what I screenshotted her saying is how they have a baby handcuffed here. And she's making this video discussing and elaborating on how unjust this is. We need to do better. ICE is evil for this, right? But what's not understandable with this, if I may come back to this here, what I don't understand, I do understand, but I don't. This is where I'm coming from when I say lies are very destructive, and I hate how people lie, or maybe unintentionally lie, but speak out of ignorance, not doing their research before they speak, before they open their mouth, and keep portraying or keep further pushing false propaganda, or just keep pushing propaganda. So clearly you can see here, and you may be saying, okay, well, how is this propaganda? How is this false? You could clearly see a child there, right? They're in handcuffs. There's an officer there. Children shouldn't be handcuffed. And I know that drives emotions. That gets people to want to be defensive as parents, who may have their own children. I should never do that. Okay. And then you look here. Again, I'm speaking for the video. I'm not having it play. But then this same person here, you can see the same jacket, right? This so-called child that someone's creating an Instagram reel, trying to paint some kind of bad picture on ICE. You look at it, it's actually a 27-year-old woman who just happens to be of short stature. You don't believe me? You don't think that coat matches enough? Okay, let's look at the next picture. So tell me, is this the same woman? But she says a child is getting handcuffed, and there are people who will look at this, they will take this, it will fester hatred in their hearts and their souls, and they will continue to preach the same agenda and the same narrative that they keep preaching, which is that ICE is hateful, ICE is evil, and they need to stop. And they don't realize they're speaking out of arrogance. Again, I don't have a problem with you taking whatever political side you do, standing with whatever political party you do, having whatever opinions you have. But you need to stop speaking on lies. Lies brainwash people to keep following after something they don't even realize they're following after. Look at this. She says a baby is being handcuffed, and you may think I'm harboring so much on this. There are countless videos, and I'll try to cover some, but there's countless videos, right? So this is just one. Let's look at the second one here. Or the rest of the footage here. Or sorry, rest of the screenshots. So this woman here who is handcuffed, for one, these officers are not ICE. So that she's coming here saying ICE is doing this, and one, it's not even ICE, right? But for two, even if it was ICE, whether it's ICE or police, and it's not even a child, regardless of the circumstance, this is a woman who was released and let go. So a narrative is being painted off of a completely false story that has nothing to do with the person is talking about. And guess what? It festers in people. It festers comments like this where people say we're better than this, and they say that's disgraceful and embarrassing. ICE keeps outdoing itself with worse behavior every week. I'm tired of it. Stop mistreating people. So showing someone grace and letting them go when they had the right to be handcuffed, presumably, letting them go is mistreating people, huh? This is the same stuff I'm talking about, right? And this is where I say I know why people dislike ICE because of the messages that are portrayed, but at the same time I don't understand it because literally everything is pushed off of lies. And I'm sorry, I know I'm going on a long rant, and I haven't even hit some of the points I wanted to make, right? And I don't want to make this too long, but you can clearly see that time after time, you can look after media source after media source, people continually paint false pictures. People continually lie. And yes, not everything is a lie. But at the very least, let's meet halfway and at least acknowledge that people do lie. And we can see this video she made, these comments that came, he was looking at the comments. These comments were to her video. So she's pushing this narrative, whether it's out of an intentional lie or ignorance, and people's hatred towards ICE is magnifying. And it has no basis to stand on. So now when you see something else, what other misleading idea are you going to come to, or skewed truth are you going to come to because of a preformed bias that ICE is the bad guy and ICE is the organization owned by the orange man and all these other things that are just completely off basis? Again, none of the circumstances justify people being mistreated or having their lives taken. But at the same time, if we can't at least acknowledge that, I'm gonna paint this narrative too. This is something I used with a friend once, and I'm gonna say it here. Whatever part of the world you're in, I'm certain that most people have heard of a place called Detroit, Michigan. And if not at least Detroit, Michigan, you know of some place like Detroit, Michigan, where it can have a fame or reputation of being a high crime rate area, a bad area to go to if you're not taking the necessary precautions, right? Not a safe place to go to if you don't know how to keep yourself safe. So that being said, let's say someone was to go to a place like that, and you own a house there. Let's say you come home from work, you get into bed, you go to sleep, and wake up to a noise, or maybe without a noise, wake up in the morning to realize that not only did your house get broken into, you got ransacked, all your stuff got stolen, and your car got broken into, and whether in the car, whether in the house, multiple various valuable things were taken. First and foremost, in that scenario, yes, it's unfortunate that someone robs you, right? Two, whoever robs you committed a crime and should be punished for that crime, right? But at the same time, while it doesn't push a sense of crime on you for just staying in your home, it still causes people almost in like a friendly or loving way to come at you and start trying to pass wisdom on you. They would tell you, well, did you lock your doors? And they would say no. And then they would look at you and say, well, why didn't you lock your doors? You know what neighborhood you're in. In other words, the point I'm making is just because something bad happens doesn't mean that there's not a part to play on both sides. You see what I'm saying? Just because someone got broken into, yes, the person who left their doors unlocked is not at guilt for anything, but at the same time, it doesn't mean they weren't using wisdom. So the reality that people could come here and they could see, and with that scenario, someone staying in their house. And again, as unfortunate as it is, Renee Good, it is known she was part of a Watch ICE organization. She was part of what is known to be a vigilante group to rebel against ICE. So was Alex, okay? And even on top of that, you've seen one that with Alex, there's video showing him prior to being shot that he not only tried to impede officers again, ICE officers, but he actually assaulted and damaged, vandalized their car, showing himself as a hostile threat. Now, whether or not you agree with that verbiage is not the point. The point is he did some kind of an attack and caused some kind of damage to ICE property. So now you know this is no longer a type of person who could be cool, calm, and collective. No matter what the circumstances, you know there's risk that if things go a certain way, he can attack. So again, with the possibility that maybe an officer heard a gunshot and you already know he was attacking, who's going to say he's going to stop? Because again, with the kicking the car, he didn't just kick once. He repeatedly kicked until the tail light was broken. And then here, maybe an officer hears a gunshot. What does he do? Tell me, when you watch a scary movie, and this, I know this is painting the same moral because this is out of self-defense. Anytime someone watches a scary movie, say it's a Mike Myers movie, it's a Jason movie, as someone lunges, they try to run from the bad guy. Everyone says, "What are you doing running? You know, grab a weapon." They grab a weapon. What do they say? You watch the movie Zombieland. Oh, the double tap. Don't just stop. You know, make sure they're gone. You know, make sure you took care of them. Okay, we're taking it out of that funny scenario with horror movies and put it into a place where someone thinks their life is at risk. Do you think they're going to keep taking the mindset that, okay, be gracious, you know, no, hold on, let's see what happens. Or if they already hear a gunshot, are they going to make sure that this person cannot shoot again and possibly either hit me and kill me or miss me and end someone else's life? And I haven't even gotten into the concept of how ICE does more than just illegal immigration. They hunt down sex traffickers. And yet you have people saying we should end ICE and get rid of them. So much is going on in the world with ICE, opinion-wise, that is fueled and ignited by emotions. A majority of these emotions are painted by lack of full knowledge of the situation, chosen ignorance to understand how we would be in certain situations, to understand how we would want compassion, to understand how if we were trying to defend ourselves from somebody, we wouldn't just stop with one attack. We'd keep shooting, we'd keep attacking, we'd make sure we're safe. And then when someone else is in that situation, all of a sudden we lose compassion to see ourselves in that situation. Why? Because someone told us to hate them. And this is a problem. If you get nothing else from this video, this is what I want you to receive. Regardless what party you stand on, regardless what political opinion you have, if you have any kind of political idea or opinion that is formed out of emotions such as hatred towards another human being, you are in a very critiquable place. I'll put it that way. Trying to speak as lightly as possible here. Maybe I'll word it this way. When you come to a point to where you come in hatred towards another human being, you are not bringing benefit to this nation. Because the moment you stop having compassion for the other person next door is the moment you stop voting for and serving them. This world is not made better by people being selfish. The community is not made better by people ignoring the community. You want the community to improve, you have to put into the community. And if you only put into your side, what about the other side? If you see the other side as hateful, if you see the other side as someone you hate, you see the other side as someone who this world could be better off without, You see the other side is a problem where the only solution is to not have them at all, which is a very easy mindset to come to when you have absolute hatred for a person. Whether people realize this reflection of a Uno reverse card or not, that's the same mentality that can be a slippery slope leading into thinking like a Nazi. Even though people want to call other people Nazis because they don't agree with what you say and it has no basis, no, really no one's a Nazi. But the point I'm making, to wrap this up short, I know it's been going on for a while, to wrap this point up, if you have so much hate towards someone to where you can't see them as a human being, that simplistic mindset is what went into being a Nazi. It's what went into being a slave master, not seeing people as people. It's a very dangerous mindset to have. And if you think any successful, any good thing is going to happen in politics because you've grown to hate people, you have regressed rather than progressing. It needs to stop. So if nothing else, at least get this from this video. I encourage you, whatever opinions you form, rather than being quick to hate somebody, try to analyze both sides. Try to ask yourself, what would you do if you were in that situation, especially for an ICE officer who ended up unfortunately shooting Renee Good, where prior to that, it's been released that he was in a similar situation and did not shoot. Already jumped and then already either got hit or was starting to get hit, to where now he finds himself in the same threatening situation. Whatever situation you're in, try to understand both sides. Try to understand the other person's situation. Understand that just because you have a viewpoint or narrative that you've seen truth to doesn't mean it's right. It could only be a fraction of it, or it could be a lie, like I showed with all of these here. And I know I'm still on this here. I guess I can go back here. But the point I'm making here is that you can't be hateful towards people and you cannot speak out of ignorance. If you speak out of ignorance, you're going to lie or push a lie. People, please seek the truth. And at least if you don't agree with someone, if you can't bring yourself to love them despite the differences, bring yourself to the place where you can at least respect them. Because if you can't respect them in their differences, then things are only going to continue to get worse. So that'll be all for this video. I know it was a long one. I thank you all for staying this long if you have, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.